All right, welcome in to another day in our daily Devos in the Psalms. Pastor Rick here, and we are jumping right in to Psalm 81, and we are just cranking right along the Book of Psalms. It's pretty exciting. Um, over halfway through, everybody. We've got a couple of long Psalms in our future here. That'll probably take a few days to get through. So um, you're just going to have to, eat a Snickers bar to keep your endurance level up, and we're going to make it through the whole book probably before 2025. I'm getting probably won't take quite that long, but glad to have you in today. If you would do me a favor and just hit the like button on the video, and if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And if you want to share with a friend, that would be super cool, because sharing is caring, people. Sharing is caring. So let's jump right into Psalm 81, a call to obedience. Oh, nobody likes that. Nobody likes a call to obedience. We like to tell people what to do. We don't like to do what we're told. But when you realize that the one that's giving you the instructions has only the very, very best in store for you, and you can keep that in your mind, you can keep that in your perspective, then it's a lot easier to obey. So that'd be my first point today, I think. But and I think it ties in nicely to verse 1. Sing for joy to God our strength. Shout in triumph to the God of Jacob. And, and I've said this a number of times before. It's like we're created to worship God, but God doesn't need our worship because he doesn't. He's fully complete and whole all by himself. And so he doesn't need worship. He's not lacking in any kind of, he doesn't have any insecurities. He doesn't have any need for affirmation. So, but man, worship is really critical for us. Certainly God inhabits the praises of his people. And so we get the benefit of God's presence on us and around us when we engage in worship and praise of God. But even that, I'm not telling you to worship God out of a selfish, selfish ambition of trying to get something good for yourself. But when we worship God, you become like the thing that you worship. And so when we worship God, we set our hearts and our affections on him, and actually allows us to then become more like him, which is what we were created for. So we're fulfilling our very purpose. And also it changes your perspective day in and day out on who he is and what he's asking you to do. And just like we've seen so many times in so many of these Psalms, where the psalmist is crying out like, how long, O Lord, will you not hear me? Where are you? Why are you sleeping? All these kinds of things where their heart has slipped into this place of feeling like God is not faithful, feeling like he's not available, he's not there. And none of those things are true. And so worshiping God and reminding ourselves of who he is, and declaring ourselves who he is. He doesn't need to be reminded, but you do. And so it's just interesting how God created us as beings that are meant to worship, and that when we do it, when we give that worship to him, how much it strengthens us. Like what a creative way to order the universe. So here we go. Verse 2. Lift up a song, play the tambourine, the melodious lyre, and the harp. Blow the trumpet on the day of our feasts, during the new moon and during the full moon. For this is a statute for Israel, an ordinance for the God of Jacob. He set it up as a decree for Joseph, and he went through the land of Egypt. I heard an unfamiliar language. I relieved his shoulder from the burden. His hands were freed from carrying the basket. You called out in distress, and I rescued you. I answered you from the thundercloud. I tested you at the waters of Meribah. How many of you just know the story of the waters of Meribah right off the top of your heads? Going to go to Exodus chapter 17, and we're going to see about the waters of Meribah. And all right, so the water from the rock is the title of this chapter, so that probably like engages a lot of people to know basically the story that we're talking about. But the entire Israelite community left the wilderness of sin, moving from one place to the next according to the Lord's command, and they camped at Rephidim, and there was no water for the people to drink. So there was no water for the people to drink, even though, if you remember, the Israelites were following the lead of the Lord. So why is it that I'm following you, Lord, and there's now no water to drink? So that's kind of a thought process that was going on with the Israelites, and so they complained. Their first reaction was to complain to Moses. That was their gut reaction. Give us water to drink. Why are you complaining to me? Moses replied to them. Why are you testing the Lord? And so the people like were looking at it as if they were testing the Lord. Interestingly enough, in this psalm, he says, I tested you at the waters of Meribah. So what seemed like they were testing him actually was the Lord using that situation to test them. How are they going to respond? What are their heart responses towards the Lord going to be? And so let's look at how did they respond. But the people thirsted there for water and grumbled against Moses. So another feather in their cap. And they said, why did you ever bring us from Egypt to kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst? So, I mean, why did you ever bring us here to kill us? Like, come on, to kill us? Really? That's where you went right away. Like, it's a little extreme. That escalated quickly. Then Moses cried to the Lord, what should I do with these people? In a little while, they will stone me. The Lord answered Moses, go on ahead of the people, take some of the elders of Israel with you, and take the staff you struck the Nile with in your hand and go. I'm going to stand there in front of you on the rock at Horeb, and when you hit the rock, water will come out of it, and the people will drink. Moses did this in the sight of the elders, and he named the place Massa and Meribah, because the Israelites complained and because they tested the Lord, saying, is the Lord among us or not? Why is that such a big question? That's such a big question because the Lord had already declared to them that he was going to be with them and never forsake them. So when you question whether the Lord is going to be with you or not, and not really in the prayerful way that the psalmist frequently does, that's in the presence of the Lord, to the Lord, and most of the time with a good bit of humility going on. So it's not like you can't express your emotions before the Lord when you are struggling. It's a matter of like that heart attitude, anchoring yourself to the fact that God is with you and will never forsake you. And so like I might need a little like venting time here for a moment, but they were going, they thought God wanted to kill them, like they were that far. So going into verse 8, listen, my people, and I will admonish you. Israel, if you would only listen to me, like if you would only listen to me. Sometimes we just need to stop and we need to listen. We need to, still ourselves. There must not be a strange God among you. You must not bow down to a foreign God. I am the Lord your God who brought you out from the land of Egypt. Open your mouth wide and I will fill it. I love that verse. I'm the Lord your God that brought you out of the land of Egypt. Open your mouth wide and I will fill it. But I think sometimes we end up closing our mouths towards the Lord because we get this attitude and we just we close ourselves off to the blessing that God wants to pour into us because we have a perception, we have an attitude towards the Lord that says, no, like, where are you? What are you doing? I don't even think you're good. I think you're trying to kill me. Like that's how they went and it was bad. And so I gave them over to their stubborn hearts to follow their own plans. Oh, let's not follow our own plans. If only my people would listen to me and Israel would follow my ways, I would quickly subdue their enemies and turn my hand against their foes. Those who hate the Lord would cower to him. Their doom would last forever, but he would feed Israel with the best wheat, satisfy you with honey from the rock. Oh man, and that's the provision of the Lord right there as well, with the best wheat, not just skimping, but the best, and not just water from the rock, but honey. Are you kidding me right now? So, um, So, again, let's worship the Lord to remind ourselves who he is. And then let's be really careful when we come into a situation where we run into a period of lack or not enough or something, and your initial heart like response is to complain, is to be frustrated, is to think God's out to get you because, oh my gosh, this is too hard of a test I'm facing. Is recognize it might be this moment where God is putting something in your path to see, will you choose to trust me? Even when the circumstances that you are facing seem to be the opposite of what you know to be true, how are you going to respond to that? And so, it's like faith in the face of testing. Faith, and if you don't have it in that season, do you actually have it, right? Because until it's tested, do you actually know if you actually have any faith? And so let's just be really cautious how we approach those seasons of testing. And that is what I had for you today. I hope you have a great day. God bless you, and I will see you tomorrow.